everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
Y'all not gonna believe this. I just got home from a coffee date. It was a early morning, not 5 a.m., but 10 a.m. coffee date on a weekend. And I have text with this guy inside the dating app several times. We exchanged phone numbers and we text and we had a phone call. And I asked more than once, could you want to do a video FaceTime call? Do you have an iPhone? He said, no, I don't. He said, I don't really know how to do that. I said, oh, okay. And so anyway, we had made arrangements to meet at the local coffee shop, the green emblem, anyway. So I get over there, and of course the place is full. I mean, I don't know what they're putting crack in that coffee or what, but it's addictive. Anyway, so we get over there. I get over there early because that's one of my things. I want to get there early and get parked, because if it's someone that I don't want them to know my license tag or anything like that, I want to be able to leave when anyway, you understand the safety issue. So I get there early and I go inside. Well, I had a muffin and I had an iced tea.
What to do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Today we back with another lit video, back in the confessional. Yes, we stay in lit, big dog. Shout out to my everyday people who rock with me every day. Now, this is Dolly Day. Now, I've done a few videos on her on my Everyday PJ channel. So check this out, man. That is a very important message for women dating, especially the older you get, the more safe you need to be. Getting there early. Don't always wait on the guy to walk you to the door. You don't. A lot of times these women, they be like, "Are you gonna pick me up for a date?" No, don't have nobody pick you up at your house for a first date. Okay. It was one girl who offered her brother to go with her to the first date, or things of that nature, or pick me up from my mom's house. Why would you pick them up from their mom's house? Like, that's stupid. Just no home visits. Get to the date ahead of time so you can get in, meet him inside. A lot of women will be like, I mean, I get it if it's like downtown, there's plenty of places to park, but like a specific place like where she's at, you can see who pulls in and who gets out of the car, and you can kind of, catch the vibes. But thing is, very important, be safe on first dates, no matter who you are.
Or a flavored tea. Anyway, so then I sit there and wait, and I know that I'm early. I'm about a half hour early. So I have my muffin because I'm starving. And I go back up to the counter. I'm gonna throw out half of this tea drink, and I'm gonna get a coffee. And I've texted him. He said, yeah, he's just a minute away. He'd be pulling in the parking lot in a minute. I said, okay. So I get up there and I bought my own coffee. I ordered my coffee, and so I'm waiting. They're gonna write my little name on it and stuff. And so I'm just standing in the group waiting for my drink. And he come in the door. I recognized him from his photo. The photo was accurate, and which I really appreciate. But there was a woman that came in the door with him. Now, I don't know that they're together, but they certainly did come in the door, and they were talking to, motioning communication back and forth to each other. He walks over to me, and this woman is a few feet behind him. And I shake his hand. Oh, nice to meet you finally. And all's good. And then he says, oh, this is my sister. And I said, oh, hi, I'm Dolly. And I shake her hand. I'm a little caught off guard, but, I don't know. I don't know, right? So they call my name for my drink. I go over and get it. He said, oh, you already got your coffee? I said, yeah. He says, okay. And so she says, I'll order the coffee. Y'all go get us a table, get us a seat. So we went and got it. He and I went, and she ordered a coffee. I didn't ask what he wanted, so she must know, right? So we sat down. I said, wow. I said, you brought your sister along. I said, she seems like a really nice lady. And he said, yeah. He said, well, I appreciate you letting her come along. I said, well, I'm not letting her anything. You brought her along. And she comes over to the table. She says, they'll call her name in a minute. And she's down. She says, so Miss Dolly, tell me about yourself. And I said, well, I'm just a single lady who lives here in the Dothan area. She said, oh yeah. And she told me where they lived, and she lives, in the next town over, a small town, but the next town over. And, I said, oh, well, yeah, that's a nice area. I said, that's great. She said, do you have any kids? So she's quizzing me. And I felt a little awkward. I thought, why is she doing all this talking? I'm not on a date with her. I want to get to know him, right? And I said, yeah, I do have children. And I looked at him and I said, so do you don't have any children, correct? He says, no, I don't. And then she starts talking for him again. And okay. And so this goes on for a little while. They call their names for the drinks, the coffee drinks that they ordered. And she goes and gets them and comes back. She says, what did I miss? I said, nothing. I said, nothing at all. I said, so tell me, what kind of things do you like doing, on a Saturday? It's Saturday. What kind of things would you normally be doing on a Saturday if you weren't out on a coffee date with me? And he said, well, sometimes I like, and she started talking for him. And I said, okay, I got about half of my drink done. They're still drinking theirs, and they're having a whole conversation, the two of them. They're having a good time, and they're nice people. So I got about half of my coffee done. Now, of course, I've already had a iced tea. I've already had, or at least half of one. Now I've had half a coffee. I need to use the restroom, okay? So I said, excuse me, I'm going to use the restroom for a second. I said, this coffee's getting the best of me. And so I get up and I got my purse and I went to the restroom. And when I came back, they was like, well, Miss Dolly, we've talked it over and we'd like to invite you back to our house. And I said, do y'all live together? So, well, we live next door to each other. So we kind of sort of do, but we don't. And I said, oh, okay. I said, well, no, I don't know that I'm going to be able to. I have time today to do that. And what I was really thinking was, hell no, are you kidding me? I'm not going nowhere with these two people. They seem nice enough, but I'm not getting in a car or following them. And no, we're not. I don't even know this damn guy because I haven't talked to him. I keep talking. She keeps talking for him. And I said, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. I said, today, I don't have time. I'm so sorry. I have other things today.
Damn the story good, but I'm over here vibing the Boys to Men in the background. Dolly, she went from country music in the beginning, now Boys to Men. What station is she listening to?
And she says, oh, okay, well, what night would be good for you? And we'd like to have you over and we'll cook you a nice dinner and everything. And it's her. She's saying this. And I said, oh, well, I'm not really sure. I said, I'm not sure. She said, Miss Dolly, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. I just, I feel like this is a triple date, a throuple or something. I said, I'm confused. I said, I am single, and I thought that you and I looked at him, you and I were going on a date. And a coffee date to get to know each other. I said, and I looked at her and I said, you're lovely, but I don't want to date a lady. She said, no, I'm not lesbian or anything. I said, no, but y'all seem to be a couple and I don't want to date I'm confused. I said, you're both very nice people, but I don't think this is for me. And she says, oh, well, look, I don't have to come. If you want to come to dinner, I can go somewhere. I said, well, y'all live next door to each other. Why would you have to leave if I came to dinner? Doesn't he have his own house? Yeah, but he always eats at my house. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, look, it's getting late. And I don't even have a watch on. I have a bracelet. I said, it's getting late. I said, I really need to go, but it's been really nice. I shook both their hands and I went and got in my car. I do not want to date a man who has a woman that's managing his life like that. I want an independent, strong, independent thinking man.
She's definitely the older sister, and that's her baby brother. So I don't know the age difference, but for her, she's probably very controlling. And he probably made a good thing for himself, and she's probably ran off every girlfriend that he's ever met. And she doesn't see that she's controlling, and he's so passive that he lets it go, and he's just like, oh, that's just my sister. That's just the way she is. And he's okay with it. He just doesn't understand that it's ruining your love life, brother.
The strangest shit sometimes, just the strangest shit. But it doesn't break my spirit. I know that my guy's out there. But stuff like this, just the strangest shit. Y'all not gonna believe this. Let me tell you what happened. I got a phone call, and I assumed that it was something to do with work because it was a number I didn't recognize. So I answered the phone. I said, hi, this is Dolly. And the man on the phone said, hi, Dolly, this is Gary. I said, hi, Gary, how can I help you today? Again, something to do with work. It wasn't. It was Gary, the guy from the coffee date with the sister. So I said, when I realized, he said, look, he said, first thing he said was, hi, Dolly, this is Gary. I said, hi, Gary, how can I help you? He said, Dolly, first off, he said, I want to tell you, I apologize. I am so sorry. But if you just give me a minute of your time, he said, this phone call's cost me $90. I said, what are you, in jail? I mean, what the hell, right? I was like, what, now this nut's in jail? I mean, what the hell? And he said, no, I'm not in jail. I said, okay, what can I do for you? And he said, well, I had to go get a phone to call you. I said, huh? He said, you blocked my number. I said, yes, and yet here you are calling me on someone else's phone. He said, actually, this is my phone. That's why this phone call has cost me $90. He said, I had to go to Walmart and I had to buy one of those disposable phones and get a new phone number. He said, I've been like 2 hours trying to get a phone to call you. I said, huh? He said, look, he said, let me tell you what happened. He said, I have now seen your TikTok. He said, and I didn't know that you were a big TikTok creator. I said, well, I don't really consider myself a big TikTok creator, but okay. And he said, well, I've seen the TikTok. He said, I said, on to what is it that I can do for you? He said, well, first I want to apologize. I don't want you running around thinking that I was trying to kidnap you. I said, well, I actually didn't feel like you were trying to kidnap me. I said, and he said, well, a bunch of the people that you shared the story with did think I was. I said, yes, they did. I said, and rightfully so. He said, yeah, rightfully so. He said, but I really would like to have an opportunity to explain. I said, Gary, how is it that I can help you today? I said, really and truly, you realize I blocked your number? He said, yeah. He said, I had to buy a phone. He said, this whole little phone call has already cost me $90. He said, he said, I want to tell you what happened. He said, please let me explain. I said, okay, go ahead. Now I'm getting my rear end on my shoulders. You know what I mean? What's this?
I mean, to spend $90. See, Gary, Gary must not have a smartphone. See, he just don't know about the, Google Voice where you can just, create a new phone number anytime you need a new phone number. You could, as long as you have an email, you can create a new phone number with Google Voice. You don't actually have to buy a new phone, Gary. Old people are the funniest people ever. He went and bought a whole new phone. Now he got to keep that mug for 36 months. Nah, he bought a disposable one, but yeah, it's still like, come on, man. Come on, Gary. You got to do better than that.
$90. I really did. I thought, what the hell, are you in jail? Anyway, he said that he had to buy a disposable phone. He went to Walmart, bought this phone, got it programmed. He said, all right, too bad for you. And he said that he went to work and he told a guy that he had gone out on a coffee date with a lady and that his sister came and told him the version of what happened. And the guy at work said, oh my God, that just happened to our friend Dolly. Yeah, and opened his phone. And he said, so he was watching, he had not told this guy my name or anything. And this guy was watching it with him. And he said that he thought he was going to pass out. He's like, holy shit, she's talking about me and my sister. And I said, so I interrupted him about this point. And I said, and are you trying to dispute that anything different? He said, no, not at all. He said, but I didn't see it from your perspective. He said, look, He said, when we got there to Starbucks, he said, and when the first time you and I spoke really in private like that, but without my sister being there, he said, you had told me, I'm not letting her do anything. You brought her along. And I said, yeah, I did say something along those lines. He said, well, I was thanking you. He said, but when you answered me, he said, you answered me really sharp. He said, so I thought right then, I've screwed up. This has gone wrong. This is already over with. He said, so then my sister come over to the table and sat down, and she could tell by the look on my face that this had already gone in the trash. And he said, but she didn't know why it had gone in the trash. He said, I felt like it had gone in the toilet right there because you had said, I didn't let her anything. You brought her along when he is thanking me for letting her come along. And he said, right then is when it all really clicked, like, oh, hell no, this is not going to work out worth the damn. And I said, yeah, pretty much. I said, but I was still there. I said, but I don't want to date your sister. He said, nor does my sister want to date you. He said, please let me give you some extra info so that you don't think that we were trying to kidnap you. I said, well, I don't think you were trying to kidnap me. I just think that this was really peculiar. He said, look, he said, I have a home in Texas. He said, and I'm originally from this area. He said, I moved back here. I bought a single wide trailer. I put it on my parents' property. He said, and took care of and sort of shared the care of my dad with my sister. Since my father's passed, he said, I have stated out loud over the holiday, I am moving back to Texas. I need to decide what I'm doing with this trailer, and I need to go back to my house, he said, which I've had leased out. I've had it rented out. He said, and my sister's very upset by that. She wants me to stay here. So when she found out that I had a date with someone, he said her mind was, I need to make sure he finds a girlfriend here because that'll help keep him here. He said, so she was insistent on going with me, and I kind of got a kick out of it. He said, I was tickled by her enthusiasm. He said, but I didn't think it all the way through on how it would be viewed by you, he said, or anyone, he said, for that matter. He said, so that is why she came along, because she's very excited to find me a girlfriend. And she's kind of got that on the fast track at this point because I had announced over the holiday that I would be going back to Texas soon. He said, so that's her reason. He said, but I went to work and I told my guy at work that my buddy, he said, I told him I went on this date with this lady and my sister went and it just went all to hell, and he said, while I was telling him, he got excited and said, oh, wow, man, that happened to our friend. My wife follows this lady on TikTok. She lives around here. Look, it happened to her too, just like that. And he said, so I was watching, he said, in about 2 minutes into the video, he said, I knew instantly this was about me. He said, because first, you. He said, but secondly, the more you talked, he's like, oh, he said, and I started reading the comments. And I said, well, why didn't you, okay, stop right there. Why didn't you just use that guy's phone to call me then? Instead of this $90 phone call that you claim you made. He said, I was embarrassed. He said, I didn't own up to my friend at work that it's me, that you were talking about me. He said, I was embarrassed. He said, and he said, because looking at it through your eyes, he said, this is a hell of a date. I said, yeah, it was. He said, I am really sorry. He said, I really am. He said, I just don't want you to think that my sister and I were really trying to kidnap you and put you in the basement or anything. He said, it's just, she was really excited to hear that I had a date. She wanted to kind of cement the whole thing, get me a girlfriend. He said, and of course her enthusiasm kind of put it all in the toilet. But he said, I am so sorry. I said, so, you really are not interested in meeting anyone. He said, I am interested in meeting someone. He said, but I've been on that dating app for a while. I said, I have another question. I said, was I texting with you or with your sister? He said, with me. He said, you were texting with me. He said, no, my sister didn't know anything about you or a date until that morning when she saw me out in the yard getting ready to get in my truck, and she just insisted, please let me go. No, oh, I bet she's wonderful. And he said she had convinced me that another lady would make you feel more comfortable. I said, maybe in some circumstances it would, but not like that. He said, well, I knew the minute that I thanked you for letting her come along, and you told me, no, I didn't let her do anything. You brought her along. And he said, I knew right then it was all in the toilet. I said, well, I didn't mean to be harsh. I thought I was being, factual. He said, yeah, he said, but right then, he said, so my sister got back to the table and saw my expression. And of course, I don't know him to recognize his expressions, right? But the sister did, which was why she took over the conversation. And that's what happened. So we had a nice talk. I think he's a reasonably decent guy. I think this kind of taints the whole thing. He did ask me if I would give him a chance to take me out to a nice meal, just him and I. I told him I'd get back to him on it. He, I guess, is going to fess up to his friend at work that, by the way, your lady you follow on TikTok, she was talking about me and my sister.
Yo, that's crazy. I wonder if she's. It's one more part to this story. I don't know what's gonna happen, but $90 to explain yourself, bro. You're tripping. But hey, the effort. You know what I'm saying? The effort. You know what I mean? So Dolly probably could have been like, yo, you could have did it a different way. But anyway, he gets back with her. He wants another date. Should she do it? I'm on the fence about it. Only reason why I'd be on the fence about it is because the sister seems a bit controlling, and the sister wants him to stay there if he finds a wife or somebody he's interested in, that he'll stay there and he'll live next door to her. And again, he eats dinner over there. So then she's single, obviously, and she'll be over there with you guys every day. If you could. So, unless you really unless you have a relationship with a sister that's better than the first meeting, I don't know if that would be the thing, because like if you don't click well, obviously the first initial meet was kind of crazy, so I don't know how the rest of your lives together would actually pan out, because she already seems a bit weird to you. So I don't know if that's actually a good idea to continue to date, just based on what we already know about Gary and his sister.
Y'all not going to believe this. Let me tell you what happened. I did go out on a dinner date with the brother. Remember the coffee date, the brother-sister duo? Anyway, so I did agree to go out on a coffee date. So I met him at the door at the restaurant. We went inside. I've already got my mind made up that I'm going to do my very best not to discuss the sister. I don't want to spend all evening talking about the sister. I want to get to know this guy, right? He's made all this effort at this point and he's fumbled the first time. Let's move forward. So we get seated and we order our drinks and we order an appetizer, and the appetizer comes. We've already ordered our meal, and we're just kind of chit chatting, telling about his job, telling about mine. We're talking about, I have kids, he doesn't. My kids are adults, and with just general information, getting to know each other. Well, then this guy, but the whole time, he has been scanning the room scanning the restaurant, looking around, watching. And I thought, should I ask him, are you expecting the sister? But I didn't ask because I thought, we'll just let this play out. Maybe he's nervous, worried that she might pop up, which is also giving me fears of, this woman is going to be a real handful because but that wasn't it at all. He had seen someone apparently in the restaurant that he recognized. And so he was scanning the room. Well, before our meals got there, this guy walks over to our table and says, hey, and they start talking. They obviously know each other. And he introduced me. This is my friend Dolly. I said, hi. And then they're talking about nothing of any real interest. Just how's the weather kind of chit chat, nothing. And this woman walks up and puts her arm around the waist of this man. I'm assuming his wife, right? And she says, oh, hi. And I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Dolly. And she says, oh, so what do you think he's going to have to do? I said, oh, I don't know. Of course, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I don't know who's going to do about what, right? I don't know anything. But I'm playing along. I'm sort of just fishing. What are we talking about? What are you talking about? Instead of me saying, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know any of you people. I just said, what do you think? And she said, well, he's going to have to do something. I said, he is, but what a quandary. What do you think he should do? Now, this guy is sitting on the other side of the table, letting this all take place. Another red flag to me, because I'm thinking I'm going to need a guy with a pretty strong backbone, because I'm a handful. I'm aware of it. I'm already a handful. So I know that, this fella letting this happen, that I would run over him like a Mack truck, and not on purpose. Just he would not survive a relationship with me. I'm much too big of a personality. I'm aware of it. Good, bad, or ugly, I'm aware of it. And so anyway, I say to her, what do you think? And so she starts telling me, she said, well, she's going to have to sign. I said, yeah. And again, I don't know what the hell we're talking about. And I said, yes, she is. And she said, because her name's on that trailer. So she's going to have to sign it at some point. Even if he paid it off, she's still going to have to show up and sign, because eventually she's going to have to sign that paperwork. It's just going to have to be. I said, yeah. I said, do you think she will? She said, oh, no, not after all that's happened. I'd highly doubt it. Just to be difficult, she won't. I said, oh. And by now, the husband and he and my date have apparently either eye contact or something. And so they're both stuttering and stumbling, trying to put a stop to this conversation. And I'm thinking, well, you're about 4 minutes too late.
Yo, the random guy's wife is messy. Like, you just walking up to people, telling people business. So do you think she's gonna sign who? Like, what? How do you start a conversation like that? Now she Dolly like, what's tea? Okay, what the
But I'm rolling with it. So the husband grabs the wife and says, well, come on, dear, let them have their meal. And I looked at him and I said, wow, that was informative. And he said, yeah. I said, you want to tell me about what that's all about? And he said, not really. I said, well, you realize that now I want to know, right? And he said, yeah. And the waitress shows up, brings our meals. We talk about the food for a minute. And then I brought it up again. And I said, so what's going on with this trailer and this woman? I mean, this is what's that about? And he said, well, this woman was living with me. And I said, okay. And he looked at me like I said, look, at this age, I don't expect anyone not to have a past. I have one too. I said, so, and he said, well, her name is on that trailer. And I said, oh, so you two were planning a long-term relationship. And he said, no, I wasn't. Another red flag to me. And I said, you weren't? He said, no. He said, I thought I'd have the trailer paid off relatively quick. And he said, and I didn't expect my dad to pass away so soon. I said, oh, okay. I said, but the relationship, so yeah, it was just short term. I said, if it was short term, why would you tangle up a loan or financing or whatever together. Well, I needed to do something there to get moved up here. I'm making an assumption that he took advantage of this woman who thought that she was in a romantic relationship. So she was all in, and he was simply looking for a means to an end of a solution for getting moved. And so that doesn't sound like good character. And of course, I'm making an assumption. I don't know all the facts. So I said to him, really? And so I said these words to him. So are you informing me that you took advantage of a woman who thought she was in a long-term committed romantic relationship, and she signed a bunch of paperwork that she shouldn't have or wouldn't have if she knew that you didn't see this as long-term? And he just stopped and he looked down. He said, wow, you really have a way of seeing into things. And I said, well, I'm asking you, am I correct? He said, no, not at all. And I said, oh, okay. I said, what do you mean by I see into things? He says, well, our coffee date. He said, you made a bunch of assumptions with that too. I said, oh, from you watching my TikTok. He said, yeah. I said, oh, okay. I said, was I inaccurate? No, he said, because you made me sound like just a spineless guy. I said, well, I don't want to pick a fuss with you or anything like that, but you did just let this woman and I have a conversation about business that I shouldn't have had any party to. And he said, well, but I said, yeah. I said, see, you have to speak up. I said, but that's okay. I said, I don't hold your past. Everyone has a past, especially at this age. And so I just kind of made it better with it. And I just thought, nah. We finished our meal. When the check came, I asked to pay for my half. And he was surprised by that. I don't know what his opinion is of it, but when the waitress came, she asked if dessert. I said, no. I said, I don't. And he said, yeah, me either. And I said, just the check. I said, but would you bring it in 2 checks? And she looked at me and, oh, yeah, sure. And she left like it was no big deal, because that happens often. And, he was a nice enough guy, but again, I have a big personality, so I'm going to have someone with the shoulders and the spine to keep up, because I know I'm a handful. But this guy's not for me. And this is a good lesson too for everybody. Just because someone likes you doesn't mean you're obligated to have a relationship with them. And how they view their past relationships. I really feel strongly about this too. How they view their past relationship, like it just didn't work out. But if they, we're all sisters. We women are all sisters, and there's something ingrained in me that I'm always going to stick up for the girl. And now this other woman, whoever she is, whatever that situation, she might have, horns, 2 heads, and a cyclops eye, and be a monster. I don't know that, but yeah. Just overall, this guy's not for me. But I'm really impressed with myself, thinking quick on my feet and fishing. That woman tell me all the tea. Because I just played on like I knew what I was talking about, and I did not. And that's a good lesson to the rest of y'all too. Do not share everybody's business out in public. You don't know who all is sitting at the table.
What to do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Hey, listen. She said something important at the end. People might like you, but that don't mean, they right for you. You can go out on dates. You can go out on dates. You don't have to be succumb to everybody you date. Like, you can get to know people, and if it don't work out, it's okay. Like, everything doesn't have to become a story time. Like, not her story. Her story wasn't bad. You know what I mean? But dude did. He dropped the ball. But the fact of the matter is, when you date somebody, I think some people just tell stories about people they date because they want to embarrass that person. Oh, I was dating this person and this is what they did. Okay? it's just because they want to embarrass them and they want to say this is their true colors, this and this and this and this. When in all actuality, story times are mainly supposed to be anonymous story times about people, where you give enough information, but not too much information that'll be damaging to that person's overall characteristics and credibility, because that person could be somebody for somebody. There's always somebody for somebody. So, and maybe that person will learn from their mistakes, as I have in other relationships. So when I tell you that she did this and he corrected himself, although he did have more flaws and have more things going on, I think probably what he did with that other woman was it probably wasn't a good idea. But I can tell you what he did, what he had to do. Unfortunately, people get hurt. People have actual feelings about some of this stuff, and I don't think what he did was right. So then the guy goes on a date with her. He makes up for it, but again, what's done in the dark will eventually come into the light. Had that conversation not came out at dinner, eventually it would have came out. Eventually, he would have had to face the fact that there was another woman's name on that property, and if that woman would have found out that Dolly was dating him, Dolly does not know the danger she might have been in. I don't know if she would have been in danger, but I'm not saying that there's a bunch of, geriatric women out here attacking other women over some. I did watch a video. There was a dude, he had to be like 70 years old. I did a reaction on it. And his girlfriend was standing outside his apartment, waiting outside his apartment. And I think his name was Charles or something. And he was on a date with another girl. He was bringing another girl in. They got groceries and everything. And he was bringing her in. And then so she pops up and say, Charles, I want to talk. And he like, nuh-uh, you need to get away from her. I was just with you. We was just together. Like, this man is 70 years old playing these games, and you out here chasing this man around at 70. Y'all need to quit. Quit playing games and quit chasing men. It does not take all that to be in a relationship at 70. Okay, I see, if you that annoying where a man got to cheat on you at 70, if you that sad of a man where you still out here cheating on women at 70, bro, like, man, that's the life I don't even want to have at that age. Women, you shouldn't want to be chasing a man cheating on you. Men, you should not be wanting to be cheating at 70. Bruh, 40. What are we doing?
Everyday people.
Day and night. For some women, it can start working in as fast as 1 week.